Welcome back, aliens. My name is Avin Reddy, and in this video, we'll talk about Neo blockchain. So, I'm assuming that you know about blockchain, at least basics of it. If you don't know about it, that's completely fine. You will find a link in description. You will find a link where I'm talking about the basics of blockchain, and that should work. Now, let's come back to Neo blockchain. Now, Neo blockchain is not new. In fact, we have so many blockchains in the world, right? And everyone is trying to solve the same problem. Okay, what problem I'm talking about? The problem is the first one, the trust issue. Yes, internet is there from a long time, but internet was built on trust. But nowadays we don't trust internet, right? Because all these companies, they own your data. Yeah, that's right. I mean, you can control your data, you can update, you can delete, if you can, and you can post new data, right? But this company own your data, and we don't want that. We want the control. We want to own our data. Our next issue is with the, in fact, we have so many issues to talk about, but one of the issue which everyone knows about is the transaction cost or the banking hours, right? So if you do a transaction, you want to do some financial transaction, you have to do that with the help of a bank, which will charge you huge amount of money, and they have a power when to do it and when not to do it. We have some working hours, right? Now, to solve that issue, we have a concept of cryptocurrency. Of course, there are multiple reasons why we have it, but let's talk about cryptocurrency. Now, cryptocurrencies are a way you can use that instead of using a fiat currencies. And yes, in some countries it's not legal, in some countries they are supporting it. But ultimately, that's the future, right? We will be doing transactions in future with the help of cryptocurrencies. So as I mentioned before, every blockchain is trying to solve the same problem with in a different way. Now, Neo is also there, but then Neo is not a new blockchain, right? It's there from a long time. Neo was launched in 2014, but yeah, the name was different. The name was Ant Shares, but later on they moved to a different name called Neo. And one of the things I love about Neo is the way they upgrade. And that's very important, right? Because blockchains are new technology. And whenever you have a new technology, we are still trying to find a standard where all the blockchains can follow. And then there will be a day where we will be having a proper standard, right? But then if we talk about a blockchain, what helps to the users, what helps to the developers and the company who is using it is the ecosystem. In a blockchain, if you have an ecosystem where you get all the thing inbuilt, it is much easier to build with. And that's where Neo excel. And so Neo is coming up with N3, which is Neo third version, and it is amazing. So what are the features it provides? So you can see, I just went to the neo.org. This is an amazing website. And okay, now there's a launchpad, Polaris launchpad, but this is only for this time if you're watching this in this year, this month. But if you're watching this video later, you'll not be having this launchpad. But this is a hackathon. If you can participate it, you can just click on this learn more, and you can participate and you can win the grand prize. Now coming down, let's talk about the features, which is very exciting. Now, one of the amazing thing about Neo, which I mentioned before, is having a good ecosystem. And the list of features you can see there. But then let's start with the last one, which is the multi-language, and that is amazing. See, the problem is blockchain is awesome, of course, and then we have so many blockchains available, right? But one of the thing about the Neo blockchain is supports multiple languages. Example, let's say you know Java, you know C Sharp. But then if you talk about other blockchain, they say, hey, you have to first learn this language, then you can work on the platform. And that's a bit tricky because blockchain itself is a new technology. And now you are asking them to learn a new language. It becomes a barrier, right? Neo says, hey, don't worry. If you know C Sharp, if you know Java, just get in. In fact, it's about multiple languages, which we'll see in some time. The next feature it provides is something called oracles. Now, there's one more thing which I forgot to mention is this is not a single video. We'll be having a series of video. In the upcoming videos, we'll write a simple smart contract, right? So we'll see the entire flow. So if you want to be a developer, what are the tools you need? How do you build a smart contract? Which languages you can use? We'll see in those particular videos. In this video, we're just talking about the basics. Now, coming back to the features it provides, which is a native Oracle. Okay, now if you don't know about Oracle, I'm not talking about the company here, but Oracle simply means data, right? I mean, the data which is from the external world. In the blockchain world, if you talk about the data which is stored in blockchain, all this data is actually coming from the transactions, right? So when a user is doing a transaction, that data is a part of a blockchain. But in some transaction, maybe you want the data from the external world. Maybe you want to know the current cricket score. Maybe you want to know the current temperature. Maybe you want to know the stock price or the cryptocurrency price. You can get this data from the outside world. But again, why to go for the outside world? So Neo says, hey, let me provide that native to the platform. Next, it provides something called a neo ID, right? So you have a sovereign ID with inside the system itself. Okay. When you talk about blockchain, when you talk about decentralized stuff, of course, you want to store your data in a decentralized system as well. And that's where Neo provides you something called NeoFS, which where you can store your data. Doesn't matter what type of data you have, you can store that in NeoFS. Okay, now what next? See, one of the thing with the other blockchain is they provide different services, right? But to access those services, we have to specify some weird numbers which you can't remember. What if you can just map that number to a name? And that's what we do with the DNS, right? The domain naming service. In the same way, in Neo, we have a Neo name service. So basically, for whatever complex number you have, complex address, wallet address, you can map it to the name. Okay. Of course, blockchain itself is trying to solve different issues, but there are some issues in blockchain itself. Now, if we talk about Bitcoin, we have the number of blocks required to achieve finality, right? Maybe 6 blocks, right? So 6 blocks is around 1 hour. So if you want to confirm a transaction, you have to wait for 1 hour minimum. That's not the case with Neo. So they say it is 1 block finality. Now, what it means, once you have a block, it's confirmed. Now, how exactly they do that? They uses a different consensus mechanism here, which is DBFT, which is Delegated Byzantine Fault Tolerant. We'll talk about it in some time. The next big feature is the tools. Now, this is where I was struggling when I was learning blockchain for the first time because, of course, a new technology, a new language, but then the lack of tools. So just to make things easy, we have tools available and you can check them out. And of course, the most important thing, you can write smart contracts. Now, what a smart contract? This is basically a code which you write on the blockchain, which will help you with the transactions. Now, this transaction can be anything, right? Now, this transaction can be a simple money transfer. This transaction can be a transfer of a digital asset. Now, what is a digital asset here? So you can imagine NFTs, or let's say if I want to digitize this remote, I can do that, right? So I can create a digital version of it and I can sell that version. Maybe like a house property papers. I mean, you can imagine, right? So it doesn't matter what object you have in real world, we can create a digitized copy of it. And you can transfer those assets with the help of the smart contracts. Okay, now let's talk about the number of languages it support. So we have talked about Java and C Sharp, but you can also see we have a support of Python, easiest language to go with, and then we have Go to go with, and then we have TypeScript you can work with. But if you know JavaScript, you can learn TypeScript, and it supports that as well. Now, what makes Neo different from other blockchain is the system of dual tokens. Now, of course, in most of the blockchain, we have only one token, which they make as a native token, and they use that token for both the purposes, for investment or for transaction. But in Neo, we got two different tokens. One is a Neo token, and second is a gas token. And you can guess it right. Neo token is used as a native token, and gas is for the transaction. But then we have a slight twist here. The twist is the Neo token is not just a native token, it's also a governance token, which can be used for voting. Now, the gas token, yes, it can be used for the transaction fee, but it was designed to reward for the participating in the governance. And this makes it more powerful, right? So we got two tokens, Neo token and a gas token. But then question arises, do we mine Neos? Not exactly. So when the blockchain was launched, they have generated around 100 million Neo coins, and they are into circulation. But yes, when you talk about gas, you can generate gas coins, right? So the Neo is already generated. In total, we have a supply of 100 million. As I mentioned before, Neo supports something called DBFT, which is Delegated Byzantine Fault Tolerant. Now, how it works. So first of all, let's talk about Byzantine generals problem. So let's say we have 5 to 6 generals and they want to attack a particular area or a country or a city. Now, when they want to attack, they are in different location. And we have to make sure if they want to win, they have to attack that city at the same time. So how will they know at what time they have to attack? So of course, there has to be some communication, right? But what if one of the general is malicious, have a wrong intention? Maybe he is corrupt. Or maybe the messengers between the generals are corrupt people. So in this case, how will they come to a consensus? So that's where we have Byzantine's general problem. To solve that, we can use something called POS or POW. But here we use something called Delegated Byzantine's Fault Tolerant. Now here what we do is we have something called token holders or Neo holders. Now they will elect someone who is called a delegator or a delegate. Now, this delegate will verify a particular block. So every time you have a new block, they will verify the block. And this particular block will also be verified by the other delegates, right? And if there's a 60% vote, if there are enough votes, this will go ahead, right? And that's how the entire thing works. So we don't have to do the complex processing which we do in POW, which will affect the environment as well. Now that's the basics of Neo. Of course, we have to do some coding as well, and we'll start with the coding in the next video. So we'll be using Visual Studio Code to start our coding, or maybe let's try some different tools as well. And let me know which language you want to prefer. So of course, we'll start with C# because it was built with the .NET framework, and we'll also explore some other languages if we have enough time. But let me know in the comment section what you want to know more about Neo. So that's it. Make sure that you hit the like button, subscribe, and leave a comment. Bye bye.